Alrighty, everybody. Can y'all hear me out there? Do I sound good? Don't answer that. Well, actually, do answer that. I need to know if I'm loud enough. Oh, sweet. I'm already getting some feedback. Good, good. All right, so today's lesson, we're going to learn about Sega PSG. So, when we open up DefleMask here, we want to go to Options, and we want to go to Sega Master System. And we'll just start a new module. Yes. Sorry, guys. Alright. So, where to begin? Sega PSG chip, otherwise known as the SN76489AN chip. Pretty easy to remember. It was a very simple sound chip, and it ran off of 3 channels of square waves. And if you want to know what a square wave sounds like, it pretty much sounds like this. Yeah, like. And it could do 3 of those at one time. And so you could do chords of 3, like this. And if I programmed it in, so that's a C major chord, and you could copy that and then paste down lower in the tracker to go every, pretty much once every beat within the measure. So forth like that. It also had a noise generator, which, well, what I would do is set it to the basic setting with a 2-0 and a 0-1, and that sets it to your basic generator. So what that's actually going to sound like is this. So if you want just like a basic drum beat, it'll sound like this. Well, hold on. There we go. And then you can also speed up or slow down your sound. Aha, the fastest setting. Which brings us to the topic of sound effect production. And why is this so important? Well, in order to generally design a sound in DefleMask, we go up here to this instrument box. Okay? And you see this staircase right here? Well, this means that the sound is going from the highest volume, and every 60th of a second it goes down 1 increment of a volume. And it's a pretty rapid succession. So, as you heard earlier, it sounds like this. And you can see the tracker travel down the envelope, and it gets quieter. But let's say I extend that out like this, right? Ah, what happened? You see, I never ended the envelope, so it goes on forever at this point. But if I cut it off right there, it stops. Okay? And this is just a basic run through, and you can play around with a lot of this yourself. But let's say I wanted to have like a fade in, and then have it like slowly come back down. Like that. You know, you can do that. Or let's say going even further, I want to have this amplitude wavy, this like volume vibrato, or what they call tremolo, like that. And so I can choose to repeat that at this point, kind of bring it back here, right? You hear that? Woo, 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 woo. And I can even shorten it to that amount right there. And so, you know, with the volume generator, you can do all kinds of cool stuff with your square sounds and not just be limited to like a basic so you don't have to be limited to that. You know, you have a little variety. You know, let's say you want to do something with a little bit of echo, you know, and you can do that. Okay. Ah, seventh chord's my favorites. Now that's all good for that, but when you're trying to develop a video game and you're using a tracking program like Deflamask, using this is not always agreeable, and it's not always the best method. If you're designing sound effects, you know, maybe music conversion is fine, but for actual sound effects, maybe you want a little finer control. Maybe you want something that's a little more precise and translates a little cleaner. And so I'm going to teach you how to translate this completely into this right here. We're going to use this section right here to do all the same things that you would in this. So what we can do is that we can take everything down to pretty much zero, right? And we're going to bring this sound down to 1/60th of a second. So what does 1/60th of a second sound like? It sounds like this. Well, you know, that little popcorn song from the 70s. But it's a real quick blip. It's 1/60th of a second. That's the shortest increment we have when you're dealing with an American NTSC or a Japanese NTSC console, 60 hertz. If you do a European console, it's PAL. It's a 50th of a second. You see the sound is sharper and clearer because you're hearing more of it, because a 50th of a second is a longer increment than a 60th of a second. But we're going to do the 60th of a second. So basically, all right, MarkBot, how do you do like a long A note with the highest tracker speed? It sounds like this. It's just one long note. Okay? So let me go to the live stream and see what everybody is saying. Okay. Because, yeah, I got to catch up loud and clear. So, it's good to see you, Stainless Steel. Wavetable guy, what's up, man? Good to see you, bro. Simplest way, no noise, bass, no arps, music. Yeah, sometimes I do that, Wavetable. You know, I personally like to mix it up a little. Sometimes I'll do just the basic way, you know, and just basic usage. And sometimes I'll try to tweak it out and really go far out with it. It just depends on the song for me. Hey, what about some music with Tesla? Tesla. Oh, wow. Let's see. Yep, tempo control. And, you know, tempo control is a very tricky thing in chiptune music, and I'll have to get into more of that later. Alright, Stainless, well, you know, you're certainly welcome to watch it after I post the video. So you have a blessed day. Japanese. Yep. Maybe I should try using some tremolo in my future songs. You definitely should. Yes. Recommend Sonic 2. Yep. I'll have to send Stainless that soundtrack. And also Sonic Triple Trouble is just like even better. They're both really good. Hello? Interesting, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so getting back to the teaching here. So now let's say we want to manually lower the volume. Well, how do we control volume? Well, you see, we have these three basic columns here. This first one is for your note, of course, and you can pretty much do like basically like this, and if I play it, it sounds like this. That could be a sound effect right there. The reason it sounds so bendy and it doesn't sound so rigid is because the sounds transfer at such close a note so quickly. So it gives your ears the illusion that it's pitch bending, but it's not really pitch bending in the truest sense, because there are notes in between, like the two smallest note increments. There are tuning levels in between those notes that your tracker can glide from. So let's say I were to set this at just a normal level, right, to like a speed of 4/4, right? And so I do C, and then I want to glide up to C4, right? Well, I can choose to portamento to that note, all right? So if I do a 3/5, that's a portamento command, so it's going to glide from that note up to this note very slowly. Well, if I do this, of course, I have to have this envelope where it doesn't stop. And I can do that even slower. And you can do that without having that note. The 0-2 command is the downward pitch bend. And these commands that I'm showing you, they should work within a game, depending on your engine, and they should do good with your sound engine. It should be fine. So maybe I can try to get some kind of crude police siren sound. It may not be perfect, but you can just play around with it, and just find out what works for you. Change those yellow numbers there, if I just repeat that over and over again. It's winding down. Maybe if I do this, or raise that note up a little. Let's try this one. Yeah, I don't know. You'll just have to experiment around with it, how to get those sounds, All right. Is Smelly in here? Where are you, bud? Oh, okay. Is that you? A better move? Is that your screen name? Okay. Alright, I see now. Cool, cool. Is this helpful so far? There's more I can teach you guys too. Okay. Oh. I see. Game Gear soundtrack making, huh? Yeah, with Game Gear soundtrack making, if you really want to access the stereo right now, you have to use a program like VGM Music Maker. Defamask doesn't allow you access to the stereo, but I'm sure you could easily convert your Defamask module to Game Gear audio, but you just won't get the stereo access, which is fine, but I don't know. I always prefer to max out the abilities of a system's chip whenever I can, so that's just my thing. Oh, well, I guess you can do that too. Snepping Tracker, yeah. If that works for you, and it works, then great, do it. You know, I haven't really used it very much. Let's see. But yeah, these tricks and tips should help. These commands, these pitch bending commands, and you're not confined to all this too. You can go beyond just the numbers that I type, you know, like that. I wonder if I can. No, I can't quite do that. We're gonna have to ask Delic for a new feature here, as always. I don't think we'll ever stop asking Delic for new features and ways to improve the program. Okay. Yeah, I think we would probably have to go to something like A. Let's see. Yeah, well, you get the idea. So that's a way to do your pitch bending kind of sound effects, you know. If you want to add a little vibrato, you know, you can do that, like a 4 command. You hear it's kind of like ooh, ooh, ooh. Maybe a 6/7. You know, maybe a 9/9. And then go up to FF, which is the max. Make some random sound effects. You know, just all kinds of crazy stuff. With that vibrato command that you can add to make your sound effects too. So, let's see here. What if you want to do like an arpeggio of some kind, you know? So like a C major chord. Let's go back to the maximum speed. you know, we can do pretty much any sequence of notes. Hold on a second. So that sounds like some kind of old arcade game, right? You know, that's a sound effect right there. You know, a lot of your sound effects from your old video games, essentially all they are these basic arpeggios. And they're basically a sequence of notes, like three or four chord notes, you know, or 3 or 4 note chords, you know. And like if we want to do like a Mario fireball sound, it would probably sound something like this. Well, probably backwards. Like that. Something like that. I don't know. Yeah, but yeah, you guys get the idea of how you do things with that. Let me see here. And right here, you don't have to have all these instruments in there, you know. You can just start off with that one green instrument thing. Unless you change an instrument that uses a different volume, which you probably do not have to do for most of your sound effects, then just leave that one green instrument there. You can delete all the instrument notes, you know, and just leave the note data, and it works just the same. And you can copy and paste that sound at different increments, you know, and you can copy it over here too to the different channels. Oh, well, if you do something in a different channel, you want to start off each channel with an instrument command, of course. You know, so we could have this play like at the tail end of that channel and so forth. So stuff like that. Generally though, you don't want to use multiple channels for your sound effects. And this is what gets really tricky for your production, because as you're making music, you know, you want to pick one channel that's going to interrupt your song the least amount. And what's, you know, that's always a trick. And what you want to do is you want to make a basic standard, okay? So let me open up a song here. Like a little song that you could use inside a game. Maybe something that I'm working on right now. Boy, it's kind of hard to decide. Well, why don't we go with my happy beat song? You know, well, no, that's kind of all over the map. How about one of my Tarzan Boy songs? Yeah. It's probably not going to sound perfect though, but yeah, because of the changes in Def and Mask versions. Show you guys something soon. So let's go back to this part. Okay, so let's see. We got to ask here. So what's my standard? You know, hold up. Let me read some comments here. Set up like this. Okay, so I'm reading wavetable guys comments. I usually have my Sega PSG songs set up like this: channel 1 for leads, channel 2 for bass, channel 3 for background and harmony, and channel 4 for percussion. Well, if you just got the basic setup and stuff, that's fine. You know, if you don't plan on using any interlacing between the melodic noise mode and the regular noise mode going back and forth, then that works fine. But when you do the special mode for the noise, channel 3 gets interrupted a lot because of the switching of modes. So at that point you have to kind of change things. But yeah, just that regular mode, yeah, it works fine. Basically any sound effect would cut off channels 3 and 4 so that the song has some bass, at least as the sound effect plays. You know, channel 3 for background and harmony. Yeah, basically how they do it is that you have the lead and you have the bass, and you'll cut off the harmony, or you'll cut off the what I like to call the echo channel, because right here you can use 2 channels to get your echo effect. So this channel 2 right here is what I chose for the lead melody. And channel 1 I used as the echo channel. Okay, you hear that, guys? So what Wavetable guy is basically saying is that this echo channel 1 is quieter, and it echoes or it plays a little bit after what plays in channel 2. And so if I wanted to do a sound effect to interrupt this, okay, let me make a new sound effect, all right? And this is important to remember for a game. What is this? This is a brand new sound effect. So let's say, oh, I just programmed the envelope to make a sound effect, right? We're going to break protocol, but I'm just going to give you an example to show you how this works. So I'm going to go 32, 24. So I'm going to do it in octave increments here. 12. Okay, good. I got one at 0. So how does that sound? Ah, boy. Well, let's try to do it like this, because we have to match the volume. Alrighty, so now let's say we want to interrupt the song here. We just go. Of course, we have to set the vibrato back. So if you have vibrato here, you see that 474. So what we're going to have to do is shut it off. And then turn it back on when the real note starts, like that. So we know our sound effect is with that A right there. So we go 4, 0 shuts off the vibrato, and when it picks the sound back up, it has to start playing that same vibrato. And those sound effects are going to interlace in between those two notes. Oh, what happened? Okay, because that's a pitch bend. So let's just pretend that wasn't there. And I think the way it works, guys, is that, I don't know, the pitch bend might come back. So I'm not sure. Let's see. Wavetable guy is sharing with me a file. Well, would it be all right if I open that file up for the world to see, or do you want it to remain private? Because I could open it up if you want me to show some people with it or something. I don't know. Alright, so like you hear how the sound effects are interrupting in between, but it's not like totally interrupting the song. And then I can even have it at like the highest volume register, but then I have to turn it back down to C, where that echo channel is. See F, see highest volume on the sound effect, but then you're back to the music, so you want to set it back down to that lower volume, which is C. So I'll teach you about the volume commands. They're very helpful. So you see somebody's picking up something or dropping something while the background music is playing. So that's an example how sound effects function, and they interrupt the music on a specific channel. But I chose that channel because it's the least disruptive, because even if I shut that off, you still get the music. So you'll always hear this. You'll always hear that smoothly throughout gameplay, even without this. And that's really the most helpful, you know, and there's all kinds of methods to do it. Just pick the channel that will be least intrusive to your background music. You know, if the bass line is really not very important for your background music, you can interrupt that. If the drum track is not as important, you can choose that to make some sliding noise effects and stuff, you know, intermittently in your song. It just really depends on your artistic choice and what works best for the game, you know. All right, well, I'll do that in a second, Mr. Wavetable guy. Let me see what our friends are saying out here. Yep. Think it'll be fine, Dippy? All right, well, let's give it a go. Let's open this puppy. All right. Show in folder. There we go. Good griefy. Alright. So let me close this out, because I really don't want to say what I just did. I just want to flat out quit. Alright. So I'm going to drag and drop Op Meridian, Wavetable song, Wavetable guy's song.
Diplomat.
Oh, dropping some beats. Okay, enough of that. Let's see what he did. So he's got his basic format here. It looks like he has his let's see. Okay, so this is what Wavetable guy did. So this channel right here is the bass line. So he uses that as bass line. Obviously, where channel 4 is used for the snares, or the drums and snares, or whatever. Yes, yes, I like that. And this is very good because he's sticking to a standard of using channel 1 for his main melody or lead, and channel 3 for harmonies, or for the echo channel to make like that fake echo reverb effect. I love it. And just like I showed you guys with the Tarzan Boy song, you would use this channel right here to make the sound effects and interrupt things, and that would be okay. But if you use it in this one, it's going to be very disruptive. It's not really going to jive right. So that's why you use this one. You use it where the quieter notes are playing, where it's least intrusive, or you use the noise channel. You know, just, you know, that's how it's best done. Because there are certain games like in Sonic and Knuckles. You know, if you ever play Sky Sanctuary Zone, it's my favorite zone and my favorite background music, but they just made a real poor choice of where to use their sound effect interrupts. It interrupts too much of the melody from that tune, which I don't mind it since I grew up with that, but for most people, the average gamer, it does get a bit annoying. So just a heads up on how to best do that kind of stuff. Okay, we'll read what Dippy says. I usually use channel 1 for background stuff, 2 for leads, 3 for bass, and 4 for percussion, noise bass when I want. Yeah, what you're going to find, guys, is that everybody has their own style and standard. And the only thing that's really important is as long as it works for you. You know, as long as it works for you and it works best for the person playing your game that has your music and sound effects playing. So maybe I should teach you guys a few more things, or let's see how long this song goes. We'll let it play through a little bit more. You see what's happening here, guys? You see how he's fading out that bass line? So let's check out this. So notice that the envelope only fades in volume a very little amount, okay? So it goes down to volume 10, which is written as A. So in hexadecimal, volume 10 is A. Underneath A is 9, so that's why he starts at 9, because he's noticing that 10, because when that fades out here. So if I just play that at C1, so right here it stops and it doesn't get any quieter. But notice what happens as the volume goes down. So he gradually drops the volume manually within the tracker, and this is what we're going to be doing with our sound effects, is that we're going to be plugging in volume commands to basically do the work of this right here without using this, because that really works better. So watch. You hear how it just gradually fades in volume because he specifically programmed it to do that, you know. And it's much more efficient too, so that you don't have to make a brand new instrument for every fading effect like that. You can just manually do some things when you need to. It saves you time, it saves you data, you know. So these are all things to keep in mind. Let's see what he's doing here. this is another thing I'm going to be teaching you guys about, manual arpeggios. And what does he do with this? So basically the actual note is like, so that's what the note sounds like, but then he's got all these notes arpeggiating, going from one note to the other really fast. And what's he doing? Well, you see, he's rapidly going from like one volume to the next and rapidly interlacing it. You see that? And it's making that kind of echoey effect. So it's a real good technique. If I slow this way down, you know, we'll get an idea of how it sounds better. Oh, very nice. I like it at that speed. Oh, this is a good technique too. Listen to it for a while. Okay, how does it have such an echo sound with this? Because if you play this, but then when I play it with this, you hear a pseudo echo effect, right? Listen. Now, why is that? Okay, well, this is why. Because Wavetable Guy is throwing that G note in there intermittently, and it's just enough at just the right volume from that C to 9 here. It's just enough to give it a fake echo effect for channel 1. So again, these are all tricks, and it stays within the chord structure too, and that's what's important. So these are all things to keep in mind. It's like a gigantic puzzle, so it gives that a fake echo effect. And this is one way that I've really learned how to do chip music like this and how to teach others. It's because I look at other people's work and I examine what they've done, and I learn from that, and I integrate that into my music in my own way. And I learn to understand it and analyze and see what's going on. And so we all learn from each other as a community, you know. So that's one thing to keep in mind, you know. Always think to yourself, I mean, even if it's a new person, because I've dealt with amateurs before who've barely even touched this stuff, and I can learn new things from them as well. So we always have to keep an open mind about that you know, there's always something we can learn from somebody else, or let's just assume that at least, you know, because more often than not, it's true. Ah yes, the loop around, love it. Good stuff, Wavetable Guy. A very good example, teaching us some very basic and useful techniques. Well, even beyond basic, there are actually some more advanced techniques, but they're still simple to understand. And Wavetable Guy also pointed out that there's a little bit of detune, and I'll show you that part he's talking about, where it starts that crazy arpeggio stuff. Hold on. Okay, right here, you see this E590? Well, there's a little detune effect, so it doesn't clash with the lead, and it adds a little bit of chorus effect, and it expands the audio's range. You know, it makes it, I don't know, it sounds more organic, if that's a good you know, for lack of a better term, makes it chorused, but still not so out of tune to where it doesn't jive, which is fine for chiptune music. The basic setting for the E5 command is 8-0. So 8-0 is like perfect pitch. So that's exactly, you know, that's exactly an E flat or a D sharp in the second octave. When you go to 9-0, it kind of bends that pitch up beyond that, but it doesn't quite go up to an E. If you go to FF, then that's as close to an E as you can get without being exactly an E. And if you go down to 0-1, that's as close to a D as you can get without being a real D. So this is called fine tuning. So you're doing all those microtonal pitches. But it's like 8-0, you know, 8-0 is in the middle. And of course, since we're dealing with hexadecimal here, you know, and let me teach you guys a little bit about that, you know, about volume control. We're going to experiment just a little about this. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to, you know, we're just going to open back up. We're going to do like the basic envelope, the 60th of a second pulse wave, you know. So like, let's say we want to do like a single note for like a sound effect, like this. Well, if you like telephone effects, remember I just set my speed to max speed now, so it sounds like a solid note, because every 60th of a second is being activated within the tracker now. Each frame, and what's a frame? A frame is every row. And every column is referred to as a channel. So you can divide your frames to be in different timings. But right now it's basically at the refresh rate, the vertical refresh rate, which is 60 Hertz. So every note is a 60th of a second, which is the rate of each new frame on your old CRT television set. So how do we do a fading effect? Well, you do volume control. Let's take out all this instrument data. So I start at the highest volume, F, and F is equal to 16, basically. It's like saying 16 in hexadecimal. And then E, D, C, B, A, and then we descend down the standard decimal system, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then we could just call that 0 just for the sake of it. We don't really need that. But 0 means there's no noise, right? And it'll sound like this. So it sounds like a plink. It's like a hollow plink now, you know? And that's okay. If we wanted to do like a little echo, right? So how would we do that? Well, we could put a little gap there, and we could start at like a lower volume, go 9, 8, 7, 6, and then another gap, and go like 4, 3, 2, 1, and then it would be like this little echo thing. You know, so that's how you do the manual envelope. You're effectively doing the same thing as you would in here. So let's say I go up to 13 spaces, right? So we go to size 13, and then the first 4 notes descend like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the 5th note is blank, and then we go to 9, right? On this note, so 9, 8, 7, 6, right? And then we blank this note right here, and then we start at 4, 4, 3, 2. We're going to have to go a couple of spaces over 1, and then we stop. See, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then stop. So effectively, this note here, hold on. Okay, well, we're going to copy that here, and we're going to call this plink, okay? And then we're going to, the first instrument, we're going to have to take back to our standard this, okay? Which will sound like this. But then our second instrument, which I'll play in this channel here, they will sound exactly the same. So this, in the tracker, looks like this. So is that making sense to everybody right now? And then I'll take some time to answer some questions. Pluck or plucky? You call them pluck or plucky? Yeah. Yeah, they do sound like a pluck. Yeah. I call them plinks, but that's because I used to like to listen to Leroy Anderson. Anyway, so we have a question from Dippy here. Dippy asks me, do I have Snevin Tracker? Yes I do. I rarely ever use it. As a matter of fact, let's go look at it together. I probably don't even have the latest version. Silly me. But let's close out of some windows here. Yeah, I'm kind of a clutter bug, and I need to clean some things up. Audio software. Snevin Tracker. I know. Here we go. Huh. I don't know. I probably have an old version. Yeah, that's the FamiTracker clone, where they use the FamiTracker interface to play with the PSG chip. Let's see. I started a few things here. They're just silly things like festive racing. This is actually based on a Sega Genesis song that I was starting at one time too, which I originally also started on the NES. So it's just kind of this goofy, crazy, festive techno song that came to my mind back in 2008. That just kind of stayed in my head, that I kind of play with every now and then. This next song is called Sky Fountain. Just an idea I was messing with at one time, using the noise channel for wind and stuff. Yeah. Oh, the newest version? Yeah, I'll probably need to. Yeah, I'll probably need to do the newest version, huh? There. Let me check my messages. I got so many people texting and squawking at me. I love it when people squawk at me. Sometimes. Okay. Everything's cool. Nothing urgent. Alrighty. And the latest version. Well, my friend, I probably will. But let me check. Let me see if I can play your song Alrighty. Huh. Now, Diffie, that sounds really good. Is that how it's supposed to sound right there? Does that sound about right? Yes, and I've actually heard it before. Which game is it? I've definitely heard that. And I definitely heard it from a Commodore 64 sound chip, you know, the SID. It sounds really good. You did a great job. Sphere Brain, yeah, I probably have heard that. Yeah, I'm a real bird brain though, so let me see. Yep. Well, I'm afraid I strayed a little too off topic, and you know that was some really good stuff. Before I switch gears, is there something that you would like me to show people from that, or is there something in particular you want me to focus on? Because I noticed how you did the drums, like the pew, you know, and I could see some pitch bending techniques in there. Hold on. Okay. Yes. So it's here in square 2. So he dropped pitch without using a pitch bending command. He just basically did a note glissando for the drums. And that works because of how fast the tracker speed is, and it like has small-ish increments for all the notes. There's a few wider steps, but for the most part they're small enough to where you don't really detect it with your ear, and it's fast enough, so it's like an illusion for your ears, which is pretty cool. It's a good technique, and it probably saves you a lot of space and a lot of data inside your tracker as well, you know, or inside your game. So if you were putting this in video game music, this would translate a lot cleaner than using a bunch of pitch bending effects and commands and stuff. You know, you pretty much achieve the desired result with minimal data usage. So, yeah. Oh, Rigid A to MS. Yes, you did send me that the other day, and yes, I've been such a jerk for not even responding. I haven't been home for a while and have been busy with, you know, having broken relationships fixed and other kinds of things. So let me get to that real quick. So test 4, DefleMask module. So maybe we can all learn something about that. Here. I'm such a bum. Alrighty. Okay, so everybody gets this though, right? The plink plink and how it's parallel to the volume envelope. But instead of doing it in here with these dials and stuff, we do it manually with the volume control. And this is good for sound effects. This is good for easy music production in DefleMask, you know. So let's close that. Just quit it, stop it, quit it. Okay, let's see here. We're gonna do Rigid's drum test here.
Diplomat.
Drop the beat. Okay. Let's see what he did. I'm excited. Ah, nice. Oh wow, that's very nice. I really love the technique, and after a while the drums really do have a slightly realistic touch to them. So yeah, very good style, my friend. We're about to pick apart and analyze that in a moment. Let's see. So where do we start with this? So I want to kind of isolate the drums. So we have channel 3. And when it accompanies the noise, that little plink along with the noise, what that does is that it kind of adds to each other and makes a new sound to your ears. You know, it's an additive effect. It's, well, I like to call it audio illusion, you know, because it's like a magic trick for your ears. That plink with that ksh sound combined, it just gives it kind of a realistic element, and I'm pretty sure that Rigid spent quite a few minutes trying to tweak that to get just the right volume level and stuff to make it line up right to where it sounded right for his ears, you know, and I'm sure that's what most of us tend to do. And what's also a really good effect is that he has the melodic noise line, the periodic pulse width noise that's in channel 4. So he goes from periodic noise to periodic pulse width, back and forth to get that that B7 right there is that so that's like the really high-pitched hi-hat noise. That's really brief, and then immediately afterwards the bass line kicks in, and it gives your ears the illusion that the bass line is more solid or is playing at the right timing, even though it's not playing at the right timing. It's slightly off, and that's okay because your ears thinks it's the right timing, and that's really what counts. And notice also, he doesn't have everything at full blast here, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, well, I'm mistaken, but that's okay too. No, but seriously though, let's see, at 2. Okay, so here he's got the all right. Well, you get the gist though, with his bass drum stuff. Maybe 1, and he's using fixed arpeggios too. Why are they fixed arpeggios? Were they ever broken? Sorry, that was a bad joke. I'm really not sure how the whole concept of fixed arpeggios work when you have that fixed arpeggio check mark. But apparently Rigid figured out how to make that work to his advantage. What I would personally do, I mean, let's say what if you don't have that? Ah, that doesn't sound too good. Yeah, I guess you kind of have to have that for that. I don't know. I'll have to play around with that later. So notice these commands here. So he's alternating between frame rate speeds, between the speed settings. So if you pay attention to what's happening up here, watch. And so he's doing that to get a specific groove. And there might be ways to get that same groove without having to switch between all those speeds. Maybe, maybe not. Sometimes you have to do that to get certain tempos that are in between what your rigid speed settings will get you. You have to switch back and forth between these different speed settings to get a certain groove or a certain tempo. So there is a point where you have to resort to that. I'm personally not the best at doing that, but I don't really have any songs that I've made that really require such fine control over the tempo and the speed so far. Maybe in the future I will. I don't know, but it is a thing. It is a technique. So it's the 9 and the F command. So the 9 controls this first part of the speed setting. The F command controls this other part of the speed setting. So like if F is set to 5, then it'll look like that. And if 9 is set to 1, then it'll look like that. So 901, F05. And you can change those and swap those in patterns to get different speeds or settings. Because let's say that I didn't have that. Let's say, hold on. Let's say I just kept it at 2/4, right? And how would it sound now? Yeah. So the reason it makes that nasty buzzy sound at that point is because this is not hitting the frame right here. So like the frame for this note is not hitting at exactly the precise timing. So I probably had to adjust to compensate for at least that. So even if I put that at 3, well, that's too slow and it doesn't hit the right note, right? Okay, I feel like I'm getting my brain zapped here. Sweet. Well, wow, he just must have really figured it out. So he figured out how to get that transition between these two right here just right. Very nice. Very nice work, Rigid. Good job. Oh, that's what you were trying to tell me the other day. Okay. Well, I'm going to have to research all this stuff in my own time because it's a little over my head. But you know, it's good technique, and it's good to learn from each other like this. To make the noise channel follow the frequency wanted. Interesting. I'm going to have to play around with that. The optimal way would be speed 1. Yeah. Even some songs in my Game Gear soundtrack use speed 1. Yeah. Well, yeah, speed 1 is generally the way you do it. I mean, it's the way I see it. Hey, what's up, Peg Mode? Okay. So, let's see. What shall I do in speed 1 that will benefit sound effect making? Let's go all the way down to speed 1, to the fastest possible speed. And we're just going to do some easy, basic arpeggiation, so like about those arps, so of course a lot of people out there, it's like, oh, well, you only have 3 channels, so how do you get your bass line and your melody and your 3 or 4 chord notes, I mean 3 or 4 note chords to go along with that, right? Well, let's see here. Obviously we can do the 3 notes like I showed you before. So like, you could do it that way, but then you pretty much got no room for your bass line or melody or whatever. So instead, what we can do, we can condense it to one channel. And we can repeat that over, over, and over again, right? And then use that D, G, and repeat that over. Oops. Did I mess it up? Look at me. Over, over, over again, right? And then we do the and you're just going back and forth like that, and then so what we can effectively do is that we can take all the data out of channel 2 and 3, and those can be saved for our melody and our bass line, right? And we can effectively take out all of our instrument data except for that first one, and then reduce our envelope to that 1/60th of a second note, right? And you'll have something that sounds like this. Well, sorry. Let me set it to max speed. So yeah, it's kind of fast. Sorry guys. Hold on. Let me see. Okay. But what I want to show you is how to get that descending volume effect, like that kind of piano chord effect that they do in most chip songs. You basically descend the volume. You do a volume downward glissando. D, C, B, A, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. And then you have to loop that again. You have to repeat that again and again and again. All right. And Peg Mode is asking me if I can do this all using macros. Well, for music, yeah. You know, if you just want to play the music that you make on your Sega Master System tracks, you know, and you just want to run your music off of the cartridge. Well, yeah, that's fine. If you need more fine control, if you need to save on data for issues of like sound effects, for instance, I really think it's best to use like the tracker commands and have those specific like that, and that would probably translate cleaner to your sound effects. Now, if I'm wrong about this, if anybody with game production has experience with this and you know that I'm wrong, well, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, well, yeah, you're right. Deflamask, the VGM conversion that Deflamask uses is not really good for sound, you know, and I agree with that. There is a way to convert it to to other sound engines, though, there's a sound engine that I'm working for on a game, and I can't really tell you much about what the game is right now. It's too early in production, but we're using something called the Echo sound engine, and we have a special converter that converts the Deflamask file to the Echo sound engine format, and it's much more efficient. It's still got some bugs and stuff to tweak out, but it's much more efficient for game production. And we may end up using volume macros for the sound effects, but we haven't really gotten to that point yet. It may become a thing, but I'm trying to teach everybody the fail-safe way and the manual way of doing sound effect production in a tracker without having to use macro. And it just helps give people a basic idea for how these things work. You know, so basically there's two different ways to skin a cat within Deflamask and also most other trackers. You can use volume macros to shape the decay, the ADSR of your sound for all you synth heads out there. Or you can use tracker commands with these volume commands and stuff like this. So you could do it that way. Let's see. So if you want to make white noise sound effects, my favorite kind of sound effect to make is that sweeping noise, you know. So how would I go about that? Well, I could start at the highest note, and then I could just keep going down. And so forth and so forth. Blah de blah. And you'll notice that sounds awfully gritty, you know, even if I do that, right? That sure is a cool laser effect. I actually like that. I didn't even know you could really do that in that way. Alright, wavetable guy, I will check this out in just a moment, my friend. But yeah, this is a cool sound. I had no idea. Wow, that sounds cool. So there you go. That's a really cool laser effect or something like that. And this is actually set to the 2011, right? Yeah, 2011. So that's basically like your periodic noise. So basically you have pitch control, like a fine pitch control over your noise, but channel 3 has to match. It has to match what's going on in here, you see? I don't know why it's not activating, but you get the idea. Huh. That's strange. Why would it not be activating? Because these two are supposed to play at the same time. Ay, caramba. I don't know. Oh, you know why? Ha ha ha. Because it has to activate each time that happens. So let's say I do this. And what's happening is that the note in channel 3 is always matching the note in channel 4, but exactly 2 octaves higher. And channel 4 is controlling the pitch of channel 3 in this case, even though it's all set to the same note. And that's because this is a very special mode. You get that, guys? Now there is a way to flip-flop that. And how do I do that? Aha! This is very interesting here. So what you can effectively do is you can use channel 3 to control channel 4, and you can get a very smooth pitch bend, okay? Get that, folks? So how would I go about that? Well, I'm pretty sure if I start at that highest note, I do 2, 1, and it's going to descend downwards. Okay? So if I set that to 0, you're not going to hear the sound from channel 3, but you'll still hear channel 3 controlling the downward pitch bend of channel 4. So if I set the tracker speed slower, you'll hear the descension. Anyone up for some Missile Command? You know I love it. Yes, pitch control effects in channel 3 will affect channel 4 only in 2 special modes. So the first mode is 2011. The second mode is 2010, because 201 mode is that melodic, twangy noise. Of course, you can get faster laser sounds if you want even faster laser sounds. So if I do that, right, we can get some spaceship laser noises. Maybe kind of tweak it. And that sounds like a game that I played before, but I just can't quite identify it. There we go. You see that? Now if I do it, if I go to mode 0 or mode 01, then these 2 channels are no longer linked. They act separately from each other. Okay? Okay, well. Observe. And observe this. So if I want to go like so, now they act separately. Yes, but if we change this to mode 1-1, for instance, yeah, they're interacting with each other and they're changing each other's pitch properties when they're activated in the right way. You see? So the pitch is being controlled by that. On channel 3 instead. And so if I go to 1-0, And if I raise this up for channel 3, it affects channel 4 in a higher octave. And then a higher one. Yeah, there's all kinds of cool, fun stuff you can do with the PSG chip. You just got to know what you can do with it, and you got to get creative with it, you know, essentially. So let's see. Because okay, so let's read over some comments here. Yeah, VGM will play your music back accurately, the same as Deflamask does. Let me not rest my chair on my cat's tail here. It's a little kitty. Hey. Okay, she's a crazy cat. But so VGM will play your music back accurately on hardware, but it's very inefficient. Just as Peg Mode says, it wastes a lot of data. You know, to get from point A to point B, it'll have a lot of extra writes in between. It's like, how should I explain? It's like the difference between like a photograph, where every pixel is accounted for in the photograph, you know, but if you compress the photograph, you know, it's like you have a whole bunch of shades of blue that are compressed into a single command, and I don't know, it's hard to explain. I know VGM cannot loop channels and tracks, so there's no looping, so every new pattern is a brand new pattern, and the only looping that you can really do is that you can have the song loop all the way back to the first part, but you know, you can't, you know, it's very inefficient in the way it goes about things. If you pitch bend a note in VGM, every single fine tune and increment is going to be recorded, you know, between point A and point B to get that pitch bending effect. Whereas in an efficient sound driver, efficient sound drivers will have an algorithm that will tell the computer to smoothly stream from one note to another, you know, without having to have all those excessive writes. I don't know. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong about that, but VGM is very wasteful, but it's very accurate. You'll hear your music on hardware accurately, just as you designed it off of Deflamask, and it's very good for that. It's not really so good for video game making. So they're, you know, music making and video game making tend to be two separate worlds in the chiptune community a lot. But when they collide, it's a whole different ball game. You know, so let's see. Okay. VGM is a register dump. Yes, that's true. It is. That's really not the best method for video game production. The periodic noise kind of sounds like a note if you listen hard enough. Yes, that is correct. Because essentially that's what it is. Especially on some of the higher ones. I've used periodic noise as a non-drum instrument before. Yeah. That's a good idea. So an effect in 3 also applies to 4. A lot of times, if it's locked in the correct mode, the 2010 or the 2011. That's the basis for my PSG drums. Yeah, that could probably be useful to get a harsh 450 hertz style tone. I'm not sure how you're going to get a 450 hertz style tone, but I'll show you a special magic trick that you can do in pretty much any chip. But for the Sega Master System, so cover channel 3 to control 4. Now, the Sega Master System chip, so the lowest tone that you can generally get to and then going even lower. So that is the PSG curse, as some people take it. That's the lowest bass tone that you can get. And why is that? Why does this make people hate the Sega Master System chip so much? Well, let's go to the NES and let's see how low you can go with the NES chip, okay? Let's change that to a duty cycle of the square tone, right? Oh, wow. Listen how low the NES can go. Wow. Okay, nice. So people prefer a chip that can go lower, to a lower octave like that. But yeah, obviously Sega Master System kind of locks you at pretty much that A note. Right. Now, what if I told you there is a way to get one note that's lower than even that? And how would you go about that? Well, I do have a trick for that. And this is a perfect way to show that trick. And it goes all the way up to the highest note. You go to that C note, C8. And how does C8 sound when you're constantly activating it like that? It sounds like that. Sweet. Okay, well, what if I do it for that 1/60th of a second? And what if, let's see, what if I speed up the timing slightly? Okay, so right here, you hear that? Do you know what you guys are hearing right now? Okay, well, I will tell you what you guys are hearing. You guys are hearing a very low note at 60 hertz. And obviously, if you go to PAL, it'll be a 50 hertz note. Lower. And how do I know that that's at 60 hertz? Well, check this out. If I go to a custom engine rate and I go to 440, which is the typical A note for standard music these days across the music community everywhere, you will get an A note. So that's basically an A note. How do I know that's an A note? Well, it's quite simple, because I go to the correct octave and I play the A note. Hold on. Right? So if I silence that, and then if I go to this, what in tarnation? Oh yeah. See? So we know that going to 440 hertz, when you do this method right here, you're strumming a very basic square positive oscillation in 8. Because what is C8? C8 is the highest note, which is pitch 0 in the Sega Master System PSG chip, and this is where a lot of magic happens. This is where you can feed sound wave data through your chip. If I'm not mistaken, you would feed like sampled sound through this note right here, and you could output sound samples and voice clips and, I don't know, barking dogs and quacking ducks and Alex Kidd saying find the miracle ball, you know. So this is where a lot of magic could happen through your PSG chip right here, and you could do this on all 3 of your channels if you wanted to. If I go to 880, you'll get an A note in the next octave. And we bring it back down to 60 hertz, right? And of course, that's NTSC. So, what do we do with that really low square wave? You know, what can we do with that? Well, there's some interesting things. We can do a descending volume, like we've done with other things. So E, C, E, D, C, B, A, 9, 8. So you can do that, and you know, what do you get? You get like a bass drum sound of some kind, like a maybe I can make this a little tighter. E, D, C, B, A. So like, if I want to beef it up a little, you know, I could do this, and it'll make it louder. And then I could do this. Well, wait a second. How can I do this? Really? You can do this? In a sense, yes, but at a lower octave. In the noise channel, yes. Yes, you can. You can get a 60 hertz square wave through your noise channel. Yes, sir. Maybe even in this. Hold on. Yes, you can do it in any of the modes too. Check it. The only reason there's a little click up there is because it's activating the mode at the start. It's a little glitch. But the rest of the track, it'll be like and so we can essentially do it with this. The reason the sound gets all gritty there is because it's doing a lot of cancellation. Yeah, so these two channels are canceling out each other's frequencies. I don't know why that happens necessarily, but that's not a problem because we can do a pitch bend right here. Probably go, I don't know, maybe 70, just to see what happens. Not gonna work. Not gonna work. Okay, maybe go to 1. Let's see what happens. Not gonna work there either. Oh well. Okay. When you're at the higher end of the frequencies, they don't quite work out too well. But let's see. That sounds cool. You see, you really have to do it with like the highest note. and it just amplifies the sound if you do it at all three like that. What in tarnation is going on there? Yeah, the chip gets a little tweaky, so I don't know why it's doing that. Oh, well, okay, I don't know, guys. All I know is that generally it works like this. Alrighty. Okay, so let's see what happens. What do people say? Oh, the 450 hertz style tone. Yeah, you could get that air raid style. You just got to play around with it. You can just loop it so you don't have to place it every note. Well, that's true, Genitari. That's true. You could just loop it in a macro so you don't have to play it at every note. But for the purpose of making sound effects and doing things like that, you know, I'm showing people how to manually do it in the tracker. But yeah, macros make it a lot quicker. You know, obviously if you do it on a macro and you know you want to make it cleaner, well, first of all, just a little bit of advice for anyone who doesn't know. Hold down the control key, press A, everything's highlighted, then press the delete button and you've cleared out your pattern. Be very careful with that one, by the way. Thank God for the undo command. Alright. So essentially you could do something along these lines, and then every other note you make it look like stripes. You basically stripe your macro, okay? And you gradually, well, I just kind of messed that up, but that's okay. Then you could do that, and I could stripe that at the end, and watch what's gonna happen here. It's a striped staircase. So what that should sound like in theory at the highest note, which is that C8 note, right? So I want to do this like do. Too slow. Okay, how about that? Well, then I would have to change my timing at a certain point, but I could do that some other time. There we go. I know my timing's a little off, but don't worry about that right now. There's a way to fix that. And if I put it in the second channel, it'll be twice as loud. So basically, I have like an orchestra bass drum of sorts for like if you want to do an RPG or an orchestral track for your PSG chip, just for fun and fancy, you know. Dippy says the first Sonic game on the Sega Master System used that classic Sega sample via that. I'm not sure if it was for the Sega Master System version. I think it was the Game Gear versions for Sonic 1, 2, Sonic Chaos, and also Sonic Triple Trouble. I know those 4 games especially use the Sega, you know, where they sang that, and they use that that pulse width modulation effect for one of the channels to get speech, to get that singing recording through that chip. And you could technically do it through all 3 of these channels with their own individual sample. There is a way to do that. When you do it that way, though, it eats up a lot of CPU data, a lot of resources that you can't really run that alongside a game. It's not practical. It doesn't really work like that. But you might do like little drums or something. I don't know. I don't know everything you can do with that. My own theory is that you might be able to do that with this one right here, the noise channel. If you know, if you do it in that, like a low note, it's a little grittier. But that would give you 4 sound channels if you can figure out a way to loop your data through the LSFR like that. I don't know if you can, but I know you can do it with all 3 of the square waves, and you can get sampling. Hopefully someday DefleMask will allow sampling. Hopefully someday, you know, they'll have stereo support for Game Gear. That'd be real cool. So I'm gonna wrap this up pretty soon. Does anybody else have any questions or curiosities about the PSG chip? Anybody in the comments section? Okay. Well, maybe I'll show like a last technique that I like to use sometimes. So I'm sure a lot of people do not like the fact that pretty much the only sound you seem to be able to get from a Sega Master System primarily is this. So, you know, square waves. So I like square waves. You know, they're nice. They're basic. They seem to be all you're limited to on a Sega Master System, aside from the noise channel. And as you go to the higher notes, it seriously gets detuned. And you're only limited to it in that mode, and then it interrupts the frequency in channel 3, and it gets messy unless you know what you're really doing and you've had more experience with it. So how do you get that NES sound, that pulse wave sound? If I were to go to the NES and you know I get that 25% pulse wave duty cycle that everybody loves. How do you do that? How do you get this sound on a Sega Master System? There's something called additive synthesis. So if we go back to the Sega Master System, you know, let me do that little audio riff that I was doing, right? I want to do that like okay, so it's very simple. Remember, we're going to have that one note, right? That one instrument command right there, 0. So what you do is you highlight the whole channel, copy, paste it into the next channel over. Now here's the trick. You have to highlight this channel right here. You have to use the Control F3 command to lower it 1 octave. Or you can raise it an octave to get the next pulse width up. And you have an NES style 25% pulse width wave, which is quite pleasant on a Master System. You know, especially if you do it right, you can add a little bit of that echo effect, right? Let's see what happens. And then speed it up a little. PAL mode. Yep. So that's definitely one way to do that. Yeah, I like the 50% square wave. I must say that deep note was impressive, but I asked myself if I could manipulate it to play more notes without changing the hertz value. Rigid. Honestly, there's no way to do that I know of. Maybe slightly, but you can get like half of that rate, like a 30 hertz one, I think, with a certain timing setting. It's a little tricky, and I did it earlier real briefly, but no, there's really no other notes that you can get from that. That's just a way to get that one lower sound. And you say there's not much use of it. Well, I've made use of it for like that orchestra bass drum sound for one song to get kind of this do 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 kind of thing, you know. But yeah, generally speaking, there's not a whole lot of use for it, except there at least is an extra note lower. It's something, right? But it's something that you can also use interchangeably with the noise as well. And I've created a cool effect with that I'll show you. I somehow knew you were going to showcase it. Oh yeah, the Dr. Mario title theme. Yep, that technique was also used in some creative music, Game Blaster tunes I heard. You know, they did use that technique for like a few Master System Game Gear games. It's very rare that people would do it, but let me just show like a little sample of a song that I did. There's a hymnal track that I've been working on, where I do kind of this Game Boy echoey sound on Sega Master System. It's all creatures of our God and King, and it sounds like this. And so what I did here is that I used one of the channels as an echo channel, and you can mimic the lower note of that additive sound to mimic like an echo effect, and it'll still sound like a pulse width echo effect, which is kind of cool. And you're only using 3 channels. You don't even have to use 4 for that, which I find interesting. It's an audio illusion, you know, but there's another song where I do something about that too. Like I have oh, what is it? Where I get really grungy sounds. So and I have to use all 4 channels in a sense, and the special mode in PSG 4. Okay, well, see guys, that's a sound that people don't typically expect from the Sega Master System PSG chip, and it just comes from combining all these different techniques and stuff that I just showed you guys. You know, along with the PSG noise mode special modes here. You know, there's all kinds of things you can do with it. You don't have to sound like, oh, what shall we say? Let me see. You're not really restricted to sounding like this. Hold on. Skip to my buggy. Like this. You know, you can get a little creative. You can sound, you know, more like, I don't know, more like this. Hold on. Oh, well, I guess I lost one of my things. Oh, here we go. You know, something more groovy like that. Oh, wavetable guy, yes. Let me play that little tune. Let's go ahead. He's got Game Gear soundtrack using Speed 1 stereo panning at the end before it loops. All right, well, let's check it out. Effect. Yeah, that was a nice effect with the tom-toms, the square toms at the end. I like that. Good job. Let's see. I don't know. I've pretty much covered a lot, and I've been babbling on for about 2 hours. But you know, I hope you guys learned a lot of cool stuff from that. You know, if there's anything more specific that you want to refine your technique on, you know, or if you want to hit me up sometime, we can, you know, maybe I can help you if you need. But a lot of what I showed you, there's stuff that you can take back to your own workshop, and you can develop your own technique and your style using the things that I've shown you. You know, what I found for myself is a lot of times when I learn what's possible with the chip, then I'm able to move forward with my own style and stuff. And so I'm kind of just showing you guys what this chip is really capable of. I'm showing you possibilities here. You know, if you can know what the full potential is. Here's a little thing that I'll kind of end with here. And it's got this kind of effect where it does that double oscillation effect in the noise channel that I showed you earlier with the 60 hertz sound. What's doing that as the noise is increasing and decreasing, it makes an interesting effect. So that could be like for like a racing game kind of sound effect, speed it up a little, you know. I don't know, just get creative. There's all kinds of cool things you can do with this. You know, but anywho, yeah, definitely, you know, thank you guys, everybody who bothered to stop by and watch and listen to all my yapping and what I'm doing, and I appreciate all the modules you guys shared and us being able to pick them apart and learning, you know. Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. You know, maybe I can do like little tutorials that are more focused on certain things and like in smaller increments. I know 2 hours is a lot of time, but I hope you guys learned a lot. And yeah, you guys take care. God bless. See you around.